Imagine a world where the very speed of your mobile data, that incredible low latency of your 5G connection, could actually be inadvertently whispering your most sensitive secrets.
It sounds like science fiction almost.
It really does. And we're not talking about some abstract software bag here, but the almost imperceptible hums and murmurs of a device's inner workings, its power consumption, tiny electromagnetic emissions, or even minute timing fluctuations.
Right, the physical side effects.
Exactly. These aren't glitches. They are what we chillingly call side channels.
Hmm.
And today, they've become the target of a fascinating and frankly a bit unsettling new attack on the cryptographic heart of 5G.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our deep dive today is into a groundbreaking paper titled SNO-SCA, ML-Assisted Side Channel Attack on SNO-WV.
SNO-SCA, right.
And this isn't just another dense technical paper meant only for cryptographers. It's a tangible, real-world demonstration of how a crucial encryption standard proposed for 5G, a standard known as SNO-WV, can actually be cracked.
Yeah, it really brings the theory into practice, doesn't it? It does. It's a testament to the ingenuity of attackers, and it reveals this constant evolving battle in the world of cybersecurity that's often fought, in the shadows.
Our mission today, then, is to peel back the layers and understand not just that this attack happened, but how it leverages a sophisticated and really quite clever blend of traditional signal analysis techniques and modern machine learning.
Okay.
It achieves something previously thought incredibly difficult, especially for stream ciphers, which historically haven't seen as much SCA focus.
Right, compared to block ciphers like AES.
Exactly. So we'll explore why SNO-WV is so profoundly important for securing 5G, delve into the ingenious techniques these researchers use to break its 256-bit encryption, and most importantly, what this all means for the future of mobile security.
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Right. It raises this fundamental question for all of us. In our increasingly ultra-connected world, how do we truly secure the unseen layers of our digital lives, especially when the very physics of computation can betray our most guarded secrets?
That's a powerful point. It really makes you think. And to guide you through this complex but absolutely captivating story, we'll journey through the fascinating evolution of mobile networks, tracing how security has always been a core, growing concern alongside speed and capability. It hasn't always kept pace, maybe.
Well, it's been a race, definitely.
Then we'll dive into the intricate architecture of SNO-WV itself, metaphorically getting right under the hood of this powerful 5G encryption engine.
See what makes it tick.
Exactly. After that, we'll zero in on the specific two-pronged attack methodology, which is really like a masterclass in combining classic correlation power analysis with the powerful profiling capabilities of machine learning.
The CPA plus ML combo.
That's the one. And finally, we'll look at the ingenious countermeasures proposed to defend against such threats and what the road ahead looks like for future generations like 6G and beyond.
The defense side is critical, obviously.
Absolutely. Get ready for some serious aha moments, because this is where the theoretical meets the terrifyingly practical. Hashtag the evolution of secure communication and SNO-WV's role. So let's start by setting the stage. Let's look back a bit at how far we've come. Think back to the dawn of mobile phones.
The bricks.
Yeah, the bricks. For those of us old enough to remember or who've seen the classic movies, right? 1G was all about basic analog voice calls. And if you wanted privacy, you practically had to whisper because your calls were so easily intercepted.
Oh, completely open. Anyone with a scanner could listen in.
Right. Then 2G arrived, bringing us text messaging and, crucially, its first real attempt at encryption.
A big step.
It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it was a foundational step towards recognizing that communication privacy mattered.
Definitely a shift in mindset.
After that, 3G opened up the internet on the go, allowing us to browse and email from our phones, and that demanded even faster data and, naturally, much stronger security to protect all that new online activity.
Right, suddenly you're handling more sensitive data than just voice.
We've certainly come a long, long way from those chunky brick phones, haven't we?
It's an incredible journey, it really is. And what's truly fascinating here is that each generation of global networks, from 1G back in the late 1970s to our current 5G, it hasn't simply been about increasing speed or adding new features like video calls or streaming.
No, it's more than that.
It's been a continuous, relentless race to enhance security in tandem with every new capability. That introduction of encryption in 2G was indeed a foundational step, a recognition that communication privacy was paramount.
Mm-hmm.
But the sheer scale, the blistering speed, and the sheer diversity of services that 5G enables pushed this demand for robust security even further.
Like what kind of things?
Well, we're talking about protecting everything from our personal data and financial transactions to critical infrastructure, even things like autonomous vehicles, which demand entirely new approaches and stronger algorithms. You can't have security lagging behind on those.
No way. It sounds like a real tightrope walk between speed and security.
Yeah.
So what exactly does 5G demand from its encryption? It's not just about keeping secrets, it's about doing it fast. Really, really fast, with almost no delay, right?
That's it. That's the bottleneck, potentially.
What are the key performance indicators for these new crypto systems that make them so challenging to design?
That's absolutely the crux of the challenge. The requirements are incredibly stringent, really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in cryptography. Back in 2018, the Third Generation Partnership Project, or 3GPP.
They set the standards.
They do. They define the Global Mobile Communication Standards. They task the European Telecommunications Standards Institute, ETSI, specifically their Security Algorithms Group of Experts, or SAGE for short,
Sage, got it.
with developing entirely new 256-bit crypto systems specifically for 5G networks.
And 256-bit, that's a big deal.
Huge. And these systems aren't just for any network. They need to handle speeds exceeding 20 gigabits per second on dedicated hardware.
20 gigabits, that's
Yeah.
just staggering.
It is a mind-boggling amount of data. They also need to support ultra-reliable, low-latency communications, often within a tight 1 millisecond budget.
1 millisecond.
Yeah.
What needs that?
Think about things like remote surgery or ensuring autonomous vehicles react in real time. Latency there is critical.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
And looking ahead, they also need to be quantum safe.
Ah, the quantum threat.
Right. The 256-bit key length is a direct response to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, their recommendation for classical security against potential future quantum computers. It's about building algorithms that can withstand not just today's threats, but tomorrow's, including the theoretical ones.
Okay, so future-proofing, essentially.
Exactly.
This ambitious initiative led to the development of SNOWV. So with all those incredibly demanding requirements, what makes this particular stream cipher so special? Why was it chosen as a leading candidate for these critical 5G networks?
Well, SNOWV is a stream cipher proposed by a team led by Ekdahl, and its very specific goal is deployment as a new encryption primitive within 5G systems. It builds upon an existing standard, SNOW3G, which was also used in mobile networks.
Okay, so it's an evolution.
It is, but with significant modifications to meet 5G's stringent requirements, particularly that advanced 256-bit security level. You see, SNOW3G was originally a 128-bit algorithm,
Right.
but SNOWV was designed from the ground up with 256-bit security in mind, directly addressing potential vulnerabilities and providing a substantially higher level of cryptographic strength, essentially doubling its resistance to brute force attacks.
Makes sense.
In fact, an ETSI SAGE report even claimed that SNOWV would be more resistant to side-channel attacks than its predecessor, SNOW3G.
Oh, interesting. So they were thinking about SCAs from the start.
They were. It highlights that its designers were very much aware of side-channel concerns from the outset, aiming for robust security on all fronts. At least that was the intention.
And when we talk about encryption not being a bottleneck for 5G's incredible speeds, the performance numbers for SNOWV are quite striking, aren't they? It sounds like it truly delivers on that front.
Absolutely. The performance is a marvel of engineering, really. The paper highlights that SNOWV outperforms AES-256 by approximately 6.5 times.
6.5 times faster than AES. Wow.
Yeah, and that's not a small margin, especially when you consider that AES-256 often benefits from highly optimized assembly code and even dedicated hardware acceleration, like AES-NI found in many modern CPUs.
Right, the stuff built into processors.
Exactly. So this superior speed is critically important for ensuring that encryption doesn't become a bottleneck in high-speed 5G mobile communications. Imagine trying to achieve 20 Gbps throughput if your encryption was slowing everything down. It just wouldn't work for critical, real-time applications.
It'd defeat the purpose of 5G speeds.
Precisely. For large input data, SNOWV is 6.5 times faster than optimized AES-256 CBC, a common mode of operation for AES. And even when AES-256 CTR, another mode, uses advanced parallel encryption techniques like instruction interleaving, SNOWV remains a significant 66% faster.
Still significantly faster.
And if you consider hardware implementations, the performance is pushed even further. Throughput's upwards of 20 Gbps, with some advanced implementations on 15mm technology reaching an astonishing 628.68 Gbps.
Good grief. That's
Huh. It
astronomical.
is. This level of performance is undeniably what makes it such an ideal candidate for 5G's demanding performance requirements. Speed is key. #, understanding side channel attacks. SCA.
Okay, here's where it's really interesting and, frankly, a bit unsettling. We're used to thinking of hacking as a direct assault on the code or the data itself, maybe trying to guess passwords, exploiting software vulnerabilities, or tricking people,
Oh, yeah.
phishing and all that.
The direct approach.
Right. But side channel attacks are far more subtle. Almost like reading a person's thoughts by observing their involuntary reactions. Like a twitch or a flicker in their eyes or slight changes in their breathing.
That's a great analogy, actually. It perfectly captures the essence of a side channel attack, or SCA. An SCA exploits information unintentionally leaked during the physical execution of cryptographic algorithms.
Physical execution, not just the code.
Exactly. Think of it like this. When a cryptographic device processes sensitive data, like a secret key, it doesn't just perform abstract mathematical operations in a vacuum. It also performs physical operations within its circuits, turning transistors on and off, moving data around on buses.
Okay.
These operations aren't silent. They manifest as observable side channels, like minute variations in power consumption.
How much electricity it's using.
Right. Or faint electromagnetic emissions.
Like tiny radio waves.
Kind of, yeah. Or even the precise timing of operations, how long something takes. An attacker doesn't need to break the mathematical strength of the algorithm itself, which might be theoretically impossible for something like 256-bit encryption. Instead, they just need to cleverly analyze these physical leaks to deduce the secret key.
Wow.
The source material even provides a visual, Figure 1a, depicting these channels as distinct pathways for information to escape, separate from the intended encrypted data stream. It's truly about listening to the hardware's whispers, often from afar.
That's a critical distinction. We often hear about side-channel attacks on block ciphers like AES, which is, everywhere. Secure web traffic, file encryption.
Ubiquitous.
Right. Are stream ciphers like SNOWV less vulnerable by nature, or have they simply received less attention in the research community when it comes to these types of attacks?
That's a very insightful question, and it's a bit of both, actually. Historically, block ciphers like AES and the older DES have been extensively studied for SCA. There's a vast body of literature and practical attacks demonstrating their vulnerabilities, often by targeting a single, well-defined round of encryption, like the first or last round.
Okay, a specific point of attack.
Exactly. Stream ciphers, by comparison, haven't received as much attention in practical side-channel analysis. This deep dive into SNOW-SCA is actually one of the first practical power SCA attacks on a stream cipher, like SNOWV.
Really? One of the first?
One of the first practical power SCAs demonstrated on it, yes. A key difference for stream ciphers is that to successfully attack them, you often need to look for information leaks across several rounds of the algorithm's execution or exploit subtle interactions over time.
More complex.
It is. You can't just isolate the first or last round as easily as is common with many block ciphers. This added complexity often made them seem more resilient or at least less of an obvious target.
But not immune?
But as this research clearly shows, far from immune.
Okay. Now, with all the buzz about quantum computing and its potential to break modern encryption, should we be worried about quantum computers making this entire discussion about SNOWV's 256-bit key kind of moot? Is this key even safe in the long term against that future threat?
This raises an important question, one that's at the absolute forefront of cryptographic research, and it's a common point of confusion. While post-quantum cryptography, PQC, primarily addresses asymmetric key algorithms, think RSA or elliptic curve cryptography.
The ones used for key exchange and digital signatures.
Exactly. Those are highly vulnerable to quantum attacks like Shor's algorithm. But symmetric key algorithms, such as stream ciphers like SNOWV, are generally considered far less vulnerable.
Less vulnerable? Why is that?
Well, the best-known quantum algorithm that could impact symmetric encryption is Grover's search, but it offers only a quadratic speedup compared to classical algorithms.
Quadratic speedup.
It means that if you double the key length, as SNOWV does, from 128-bit in SNOW3G to 256-bit, you essentially square the security level against Grover's, effectively nullifying the quantum threat for symmetric cryptography.
Ah, okay. So doubling the key beats the quantum algorithm's advantage.
Pretty much, yes. So SNOWV's 256-bit design aligns directly with NIST recommendations for future-proofing against quantum computers. However, and this is critical, this only makes analyzing its classical SCA security even more important before it gets widely deployed in 5G systems.
Right, because why worry about quantum if it's broken today?
Exactly. If it can be broken by classical side-channel attacks today, its theoretical quantum resistance in the future becomes a moot point. You need to secure it against current threats first. #tag deep dive into SNOWV's architecture.
Okay, so let's get under the hood of SNOWV. We know it's a core component for 5G encryption. How does this stream cipher actually work to encrypt our messages? And what does it mean that it's a synchronous stream cipher for our data?
Right. SNOWV is, as you said, a synchronous stream cipher. What this means in practice is actually elegantly simple and incredibly efficient. It generates a continuous, incredibly long stream of pseudorandom bits. This is called the key stream, which we can denote as ZIST.
Key stream SIT. Got it.
This key stream is produced from a secret input key and an initialization vector, or AVI.
The AVI is like a starting point, right? Changes each time.
Exactly. It ensures that even if you encrypt the same message twice with the same key, the ciphertext looks different. Crucially, the key stream is generated without needing to interact with the message itself during generation.
Okay, so it generates this stream independently.
Right. For encryption, the process is then elegantly simple and extremely fast. Your original message, MT, is just XR it bit by bit with a ZISTIC key stream to produce the ciphertext if state.
Just XRing.
So CTIC's MT state, for those less familiar, XOR or exclusive OR is a basic logical operation. It simply flips a message bit if the corresponding keystream bit is 1 and leaves it alone if the keystream bit is 0.
Simple flip.
It's quick, and it's perfectly reversible. Decryption is just the inverse. You take the ciphertext made it and XOR it with the exact same keystream ZD to recover your original message, MTTD.
Same process, encrypts and decrypts.
Correct. It's highly effective, provided, of course, that the keystream itself is truly unpredictable and, very importantly, never repeated with the same key.
The never reuse a keystream rule.
The cardinal rule of stream ciphers.
Yeah.
But the beauty lies in its simplicity and speed.
That makes perfect sense. So this elegant simplicity hides some complex machinery, I imagine, and its architecture is clearly broken down into two main parts, right? The LFSR and the FSM.
That's right.
What's the fundamental role each plays in SNOWV's operation, and how do they work together to create that secure keystream?
Precisely. As visually depicted in Figure 2 of the source material, SNOWV primarily consists of two distinct but intimately interconnected components that form a sophisticated engine. First, you have the linear feedback shift registers, or LFSRs. Think of these as the cipher's core memory and mixing mechanism.
Memory and mixing.
This part involves two interconnecting shift registers, LFSR-A and LFSR-B. Each of these consists of 16 16-bit stages, so quite a bit of state.
16 stages, 16 bits each. 256 bits per LFSR.
Exactly, 256 bits each, for a total of 512 bits of LFSR state. Now, during the crucial initialization phase, the 256-bit secret key and the 128-bit IV are carefully fed into and stored within these LFSRs at designated positions.
So the key and IV go directly into the LFSRs at the start.
That's right. Throughout the algorithm's execution, these LFSRs are iteratively updated through a complex series of XR operations and shifts. In each round, these updates occur 8 times, refreshing 256 bits of their total 512-bit state. This is where the initial secret material resides, where it's actively processed, and as we'll see, it becomes a critical area for side-channel security.
Makes sense. That's where the secret lives.
And the second component is the finite state machine, or FSM. If the LFSRs are the engine's core memory, the FSM acts as the powerful output mechanism. It takes those constantly churning bits from the LFSRs and generates the final key stream, almost like a specialized nonlinear filter.
Okay, the output generator.
It comprises 3 128-bit registers, R1, R2, and R3. At each cycle, the FSM takes 2 blocks, T1 and T2, as input directly from the LFSR part. It then processes these using 2 instances of the well-known AES encryption round function.
AES rounds inside SNOWV. Interesting.
It is, but it's important to note, the internal keys for these AES functions, C1 and C2, are fixed at constant 0 values.
So not using the secret key in the AES part.
Correct. This means the FSM isn't processing the secret key itself in a way that would reveal it through side channels during its own operations. It's using the AES structure for its nonlinearity, but with fixed inputs.
Gotcha.
The FSM then generates the 128-bit keystream block, that ultimately encrypts your data. It's a sophisticated interplay between these linear components, the LFSRs, and this nonlinear FSM component, all designed to create a highly unpredictable and fast output stream.
That's a very clear distinction. So these phases, initialization and keystream generation, are really distinct in their operation. Why is that specific design choice, this separation, important, both for how the cipher works and, I guess, for its security?
That's a fantastic observation, and you're absolutely right. The operation has two very distinct phases, each serving a critical purpose. The process first begins with a 16-round initialization phase. During this period, the FSM output, Z, is actually mixed back into LFSRA.
Fed back into the LFSR. Why?
This feedback mechanism is crucial. It helps to thoroughly stir or diffuse the secret key in IV throughout the entire system. Think of it like vigorously mixing paint. You want every drop of color, every bit of the key in IV to influence the whole state.
Ah, mixing it all up thoroughly.
Exactly. This ensures that any single bit of the key influences many parts of the internal state, making initial key recovery much, much harder by obscuring direct relationships between the key and the state later on. Then, once initialization is complete and the key and IV are fully diffused, the algorithm transitions into the key stream generation phase. In this phase, the FSM output is not fed back into LFSRA.
Ah, the feedback stops.
Right. This means the two LFSRs essentially operate independently, just generating their own internal states based on their update rules, and the FSM's output directly forms the secure key stream that's XORed with your data. This clear separation of phases is very important, both for the design's security properties and, as we'll see, for understanding precisely where an attacker might successfully focus their efforts, particularly during that initialization phase.
Right, when the key is being loaded and mixed.
Exactly.
It's truly fascinating how much engineering goes into making these crypto systems both incredibly secure and, perhaps even more importantly for 5G, unbelievably fast. It's a real testament to human ingenuity.
It truly is a marvel of cryptographic engineering. SNOWV is specifically optimized for high-speed software performance, leveraging existing single-instruction, multiple data, or SIMD instructions that are prevalent in modern CPUs.
SIMD, right? Doing multiple things at once.
Exactly. Think of it like having multiple workers doing the same small task simultaneously on different parts of your data, rather than one worker doing it sequentially. It's a huge speed boost for cryptographic operations like the ones in SNOWV.
Okay.
Even without specialized AES-NI hardware instructions, which many modern CPUs have specifically for AES, SNOWV still manages to significantly outperform AES-256, and even its predecessor, SNOW3G, in terms of raw speed. For large data inputs, it's roughly 6.5 times faster than optimized AES-256 CBC, a common mode of operation for AES.
Still that 6.5x figure, yeah.
And even when AES-256 CTR, another mode, uses advanced parallel encryption techniques like instruction interleaving, SNOWV remains a remarkable 66% faster.
Still faster even against optimized AES.
Right. And if you consider hardware implementations, the performance is pushed even further, achieving throughputs upwards of 20 GBPs, with some advanced implementations on 15mm technology reaching an astonishing 628.68 GBPs.
That number is just hard to grasp. 628 gigabits per second.
It's phenomenal. This level of performance is absolutely critical for ensuring that encryption doesn't become a bottleneck for the high-speed, low-latency demands of 5G mobile communications, which makes it such an attractive candidate. Hashtag tag the SNOWSCA attack methodology, a two-pronged approach.
So with such a robust and seemingly well-designed system, especially one engineered for speed and security, how did the researchers even begin to find a weakness? Where did they look first in this complex architecture to launch their attack?
Well, their initial investigation focused on meticulously analyzing SNOWV's internal architecture, as we discussed, and they identified the linear feedback shift register, the LFSR, as the most vulnerable point for attack.
Okay, back to the LFSR.
Right. This is critical because during that initialization phase, which is when the cipher prepares itself for encryption, all the key bytes are loaded into and explicitly allocated to the LFSR.
The whole key goes in there.
The whole 256-bit key plus the 128-bit 5e. In stark contrast, the finite state machine, the FSM, which uses those AES round functions, operates with constant zero values for its internal keys, remember?
Right, no secret key involved there.
Exactly. This means the FSM doesn't process the secret key in a way that would reveal it through side channels during its normal operations. So, the LFSR part, containing the actual secret key material and where it's being actively mixed and diffused, that became the primary target for the attack. This foundational analysis, identifying where the secret key truly lives and is manipulated, is the very first strategic step in their methodical attack.
Okay, so once they've identified a potential weak spot like the LFSR, you can't just jump into an attack. You need to confirm there's even a leak to begin with, right? How do you even begin to test for these invisible whispers? How did they do that initial confirmation?
Precisely. Before launching a full-blown attack, it's absolutely essential to perform what's called leakage detection. You need proof there's something to find. They used a well-established technique called test vector leakage assessment, or TVLA,
TVLA.
which is essentially a statistical t-test. This method determines if there's any statistically significant data-dependent variation in the side channel traces captured from the device.
Data dependent, meaning the power changes based on the data being processed.
Exactly. If the power consumption looks different when processing, say, a 0 versus a 1 or different key bytes, then you have leakage. To do this, they collected power traces from the device, comparing two sets. One where the initialization vector, the Withian, was kept fixed, and another where the IDA varied randomly. Both sets use the same secret key.
Okay, fixed 4 versus random 4.
Right. For robust statistical results, they collected 1,000 traces for each set. The results of this TVLA were quite conclusive and, frankly, concerning. There was substantial side channel leakage.
It worked. They found leakage.
They did. The absolute T value, which is a measure of how significant the difference between the two sets of traces is, crossed the critical threshold of 4.5.
4.5, that's the magic number.
That's the standard indicator in TVLA for significant data-dependent leakage.
Yeah.
What's even more concerning, as dramatically shown in Figure 4b of the paper, is that this leakage was evident with as few as 10 traces.
Only 10, that's really leaky.
It's an incredibly small number, yeah. It tells us the system is highly susceptible to side-channel attacks, even with minimal data collection. It signaled to the researchers that their choice of the LFSR as a target was indeed correct, and that this was a very promising avenue for attack.
So you've confirmed there's a leak, and you know generally where it's coming from, the LFSR, during initialization. Now, the next challenge is to find where in the operation the leak is happening and, more importantly, how it specifically relates to the secret key itself. How do they pinpoint this with such precision?
Yes, known key correlation, or KKC analysis, is the next logical and crucial step in any good side-channel investigation.
PKC.
With a known key, which you can use in a controlled experimental setup, you correlate the variations in power consumption, that physical side-channel information, with hypothetical intermediate values derived from the known key being processed by the algorithm.
So you guess what's happening inside and see if it matches the power trace?
Essentially, yes. You create a model of the power consumption based on an assumed intermediate value, often the Hamming weight, and see how well that model correlates with the actual measured power trace at different points in time. This helps you identify specific patterns and pinpoint the exact operations within the code where key information is leaking.
Okay.
To optimize their attack model, they fix the key and vary the IV to determine the Hamming weight, or HW, of a specific intermediate variable called within the update function.
Hamming weight, again, the number of ones.
Right, because more ones often means more power. They then carefully compared different bit models, 4-bit, 6-bit, 8-bit, and 16-bit, for their hypothesis of how much of the intermediate value was leaking. They found that the 8-bit model was optimal.
Why 8-bit?
Because it drastically reduces the attack complexity. If they targeted the full 16-bit value directly, that's 216 possibilities to check for each part of the key. By targeting an 8-bit intermediate value related to the key, it comes down to a much more manageable 28 possibilities.
65,536 down to 256. Big difference.
Huge difference, while still maintaining a strong signal-to-noise ratio. This makes the attack practical and highly efficient, as you can see illustrated in Figure 5a and b of the paper.
That's a significant reduction in complexity. But here's where the story takes that fascinating turn you mentioned. They've done the math, they've run the correlations, but there's still this stubborn ambiguity in the results. What was the missing piece? That one detail that unlocked everything.
This is truly ingenious, and it represents a major aha moment in their research. Their meticulous, almost forensic code analysis. By looking at the LSUNUS update function, specifically listing 1 in the paper, they found that the intermediate variable is defined using a function called mulxvin A80XCC87.
Mulxim, some kind of multiplication function.
It performs multiplication in a specific mathematical field, yes, But when they then dove into the Mulxin function itself, shown in listing 2, they discovered a crucial, almost hidden detail. This function performs a 1-bit right shift, V1, as part of this
A
calculation.
right shift just moves all the bits one place to the right.
Exactly. And what happens when you shift right? The bit on the far right, the least significant bit, or LSB,
It falls off the end, it's gone.
it's gone. This seemingly innocuous operation meant that the LSB of the key byte they were attacking, specifically A80, the first byte of one of the LFSR cells which holds key material, is lost during the computation of U,
Wow, just discarded.
discarded from the value of U. This critical fact profoundly dictated the next stages of their attack because it directly impacted their leakage hypothesis. As a direct consequence, their Hamming weight hypothesis for both KKC and the subsequent correlation power analysis, CPA, had to be calculated based on only the upper 7 bits of U, not the full 8 bits they were initially targeting for the key byte.
Because the eighth bit, the LSB, wasn't even in the value they were correlating against.
Precisely. This is a subtle but absolutely game-changing detail that explained the ambiguity they were seeing in their results.
Wow, a single bit lost during computation becomes the absolute linchpin. Okay, so armed with this incredibly detailed knowledge of where the leak occurs and even how a bit is being lost, they deployed a classic side-channel attack, correlation power analysis, or CPA. What did they find when they put this into action? Were there any unexpected twists?
Right, CPA is the workhorse for actually extracting the key once you have a good leakage model. It's designed to target specific operations, and in this case, it focused on the U and V operations within that ELSA update function during initialization. When they initially ran CPA on simulated traces, which is a good way to validate the theory quickly, shown in Figure 6a, they found 4 distinct peaks with the highest correlation.
For possible.
4 strong correlation peaks, yeah. 2 positive, labeled A and B in the figure, and 2 negative, labeled C and D. This is the algorithm's way of saying there are strong correlations here, hinting at the key. Now, on the 32-bit ARM Cortex-M4 microcontroller they used for the actual implementation, the data bus is typically pre-charged to 0 before data is loaded.
Okay. What does that mean for the attack?
It means that when a byte with more ones, a higher Hamming weight, is processed, it causes more bit flips from 0 to 1, generally leading to higher power consumption, resulting in a positive correlation peak for the correct key byte.
Ah, so positive peaks are the good ones.
In this specific hardware context, yes. This allowed them to immediately discard the 2 negative peaks, C and D, as incorrect guesses. However,
You were still left with 2 positive peaks, A and B.
exactly. They were still left with 2 tantalizingly close possible guesses for the correct key, A and B. The CPA alone couldn't distinguish between them.
Ah, so this is where that lost LSB, the one that disappeared in the Malkinvoff function, comes back to haunt them and creates this ghost peaks problem, right? It
Right.
seems to be the fundamental limitation that CPA couldn't overcome on its own.
Exactly. You've nailed it. Figure 7 illustrates this case study perfectly and is truly the heart of the ghost peaks phenomena, because the LSB of that key byte A8 is discarded by the Mulxin function when calculating U. The CPA attack, which relies on correlating power with the Hamming weight of U, can only distinguish the upper 7 bits of the key byte.
It's blind to the LSB.
It's effectively blind to the LSB in that specific calculation. Let's take the example directly from the paper. If the actual key byte was, say, 0 by 16, which is 0000101 in binary, LSB 0, the CPA would correlate strongly with 0 by 16. But because that LSB is effectively ignored in the leakage model for it, it would also strongly correlate with 0 by 19, which is 000010100 in binary LSB 1.
Because the top 7 bits look the same after the shift.
Essentially, yes. The upper 7 bits involved in the calculation that leads to U are the same for both 0 by 16 and 0 by 19 in this context. These are precisely the ghost peaks. The CPA could successfully recover the key pair within roughly 30 traces, which is incredibly efficient.
30 traces is nothing.
It's tiny. But it couldn't uniquely identify the single correct key. It was always a pair, the real key, and its indistinguishable ghost. CPA hit a wall there.
This is a fantastic demonstration of combining different attack methods to overcome specific subtle obstacles. So this is where machine learning comes into play. How exactly did ML resolve these ghost peaks that traditional CPA couldn't distinguish? This is where the story takes a truly modern and powerful twist.
This is truly the elegant solution, and where the ML-assisted part of the paper title shines brightly, the beautiful piece of the puzzle. While the LSB of the key by A8 is indeed lost in the value of U due to that right shift, it still has a physical effect. It affects the timing and, more importantly, the power consumption profile of the Mulxin function itself.
Ah, the function doing the shift still behaves differently based on the LSB.
Subtly, yes. Consider this crucial point. If the LSB of the input V is 1, the function performs both a right shift, V1, and an XOR operation with a constant value, 0 by 87. However, if the LSB is 0, it only performs the right shift.
Different operations depending on the bit.
Right. These two slightly different sequences of internal operations, even if they appear constant time from a high-level perspective, meaning they might take the same total clock cycles, create a subtle, detectable difference in the overall power trace signature. The pattern of power usage is different.
Okay, a different power fingerprint.
Exactly. They leverage linear discriminant analysis, or LDA,
LDA.
as a machine learning technique commonly used in profiled SCA attacks. Profiled means you first train the model on a device you control, where you know the key.
Train it to recognize patterns.
Right. LDA essentially finds the optimal line or plane to separate different classes of data points, making it excellent for classification tasks. In this case, the LDA model was trained specifically to distinguish the LSB, whether it's 0 or 1, of the key byte directly from these subtle power trace differences originating from the Mulxin function.
So it learned to tell a bilament LSB trace from a 1 LSB trace.
Precisely. The goal during the training phase, as shown in Figure 8, was to achieve 100% accuracy in this binary classification. And they did. The LDA model achieved this perfect accuracy after training with fewer than 200 traces, as shown in Figure 11.
Wow, 100% accuracy with under 200 traces. That's efficient.
Very efficient.
Yeah.
This meant that in the actual attack phase, once CPA narrowed the possibilities down to those two key guesses, the real one, A, and its ghost, B, a single power trace analyzed by the trained LDA model could uniquely and infallibly identify the correct LSB.
Just one trace to break the tie?
Just one trace. It eliminated the ghost peak and revealed the true secret key byte. It's a remarkably efficient and precise way to resolve an otherwise intractable ambiguity left by the CPA.
That's incredibly clever. It's like having a hypersensitive ear listening for the subtle differences the CPA couldn't hear. Okay, once they could crack one key byte with this combined CPA plus LDA approach, how did they scale this up to recover the entire 256-bit key of SNOWV? It's one thing to get one byte, but quite another to get the whole thing, especially when we're talking about 256 bits.
That's the next challenge indeed, and they addressed it with what's called an incremental attack. It's detailed in Algorithm 1 in the paper, and it's a methodical and systematic way to peel back the layers of the secret key.
Incremental attack, piece by piece.
Exactly. The core insight here is that the ILF rupdate function, which we know leaks information, processes different parts of the key in IV across its 8 internal iterations within each round of initialization. In the early iterations, specifically I0 to I4, the equations for the leaking intermediate variables U and V typically involve distinct, still unknown key bytes. For example, in the very first iteration I0, the calculation of U depends on A8, which directly holds part of the secret key.
Okay, so attack A8 first.
Right. By attacking A8 using their CPA plus LDA technique, they can recover that specific 16-bit portion or related bytes of the key. They also attack B8 in this first iteration. But here's where the incremental part comes in, showcasing an elegant exploitation of the algorithm structure.
Yeah.
In later iterations, from I5 to I7, the equations for U and V start to involve already recovered key bytes from previous steps, alongside new unknown ones.
Ah, using what you just learned.
Precisely. For example, in iteration I5, the equation for V involves B8, which was attacked and recovered in the first iteration I0, and a new unknown key part, B13.
Okay.
Since they now know B8 and they also know the IV, which is public, and they can measure the side channel leakage related to the output V, they can then logically deduce the new unknown part, B13, using simple XOR arithmetic. If you know A and C in A XOR B equals C, you can find B.
Right, basic math reveals the unknown piece.
Exactly. This systematic step-by-step approach allows for the recovery of all key bytes loaded into both LFSRA, specifically A8 to A15, representing one half of the key material, and LFSRB, B8 to B15, representing the other half, thus recovering the full 256-bit secret key one piece at a time.
Wow.
It's a very elegant and efficient exploitation of the algorithm's internal structure over its initialization rounds, turning partial knowledge into full key recovery.
So this wasn't just theory, this was a practical, hands-on attack demonstrated in a lab. What kind of lab bench setup did the researchers use to capture the actual power traces from a real device for this demonstration? It really grounds the theory in reality.
Absolutely. The practical demonstration is key. To capture the actual power traces from a real device, they use the Chip Whisperer platform.
Chip Whisperer, I've heard of that. It's popular for this kind of work.
Very popular. It's a well-known, open-source tool widely adopted in the side-channel analysis community for its flexibility and capabilities. It makes these kinds of attacks much more accessible for researchers. Their experimental setup, visually presented in Figure 9 of the paper, included a Chip Whisperer capture board and a 32-bit ARM STM32F3 target board.
Okay, a standard microcontroller.
Exactly. This is a common, off-the-shelf microcontroller, making the attack highly realistic and reproducible, not some exotic hardware. The ARM Cortex-M4 microcontroller ran the SNOWV algorithm at a frequency of 7.37 MHz, while the Chip Whisperer sampled power traces at a very high rate of 30 megasamples per second.
Capturing lots of detail in the power signal.
Right. This is a standard and quite realistic environment for studying embedded cryptographic operations, simulating what an attacker might face in the real world. And what's also fantastic for future research and transparency is that they plan to open source their custom firmware, along with all the capture traces in the code for their CPA and LDA-based attack.
That's great. So others can replicate it and test defenses.
Exactly. This transparency allows other researchers to verify, replicate, and build upon their findings, accelerating security research in this area.
That's excellent for the research community, fostering collaboration and verification. So after all that meticulous setup and the cunning attack methodology, did the real-world measurements captured from the Chip Whisperer platform actually match the simulations and the theory? Or were there unexpected deviations when confronting physical hardware? Sometimes things don't quite work out in practice.
Yeah, that's always the question, does the lab match the theory? In this case, yes, remarkably, they did. The real-world measured CPA results on the unprotected SNOWV implementation again clearly showed the presence of those ghost peaks, exactly as predicted by their detailed analysis due to the LSB shift in the Mulkson V function.
The ghost peaks appeared on the real chip, too.
They did. And crucially, the mean traces to disclosure, or MTD.
How many traces you need on average to get the key?
Right. The MTD for recovering the correct key byte was fewer than 50 traces, as seen in Figure 10.
Fewer than 50. Still incredibly low for a 256-bit key.
Very low. It means a practical attacker could obtain the correct key byte very quickly with minimal data collection. The MTD plot also visually illustrated the overlap between the correct key, labeled A, and the ghost peak, labeled B, in the positive correlation, confirming the ambiguity persisted in the real world.
Okay, CPA worked, but still had the ghost.
Exactly. And for the machine learning component, the LDA, after training with just 200 traces on the real device's data, it achieved 100% accuracy in predicting the LSB, as depicted in Figure 11.
Perfect accuracy again.
Perfect accuracy again. This flawless prediction ability allowed them to perfectly distinguish the correct key from its ghost counterpart using just a single trace in the attack phase. The combined CPA and LDA attack proved to be highly effective and robust in a real-world setting, confirming the validity of their theoretical insights and simulated results.
So the whole combined attack worked beautifully in practice.
It did. It's a powerful validation of the synergy between traditional SCA and modern ML techniques, and a testament to how these combined approaches can overcome limitations that single techniques might face.
So once an attack like this is demonstrated so effectively, the next logical, urgent step for cryptographers and engineers is always to shore up the defenses, right? How do we stop this?
Absolutely. Disclosure often leads to defense research.
One immediate thought might be to simply make the Mulkson function, the one that causes the LSB problem and the ghost peaks, constant time. We talked about that function being leaky. Did that fix actually work against the LDA model, or was it a dead end?
That's a very logical first step in traditional side-channel defense, and it was certainly explored by the researchers. As you correctly pointed out, the original Mulkson function, as initially implemented and shown in listing 3 of the paper, is indeed non-constant time because of its conditional if statement.
The if branch makes the timing different.
Right. If the LSB of V is 1, it performs a shift in an XOR. Otherwise, it only performs a shift. Different paths, potentially different timing. They did modify this to a constant time version, shown in listing 4, where the operation always takes the same amount of time, regardless of the LSB value, by using bitwise operations rather than conditional branching. This eliminates the timing difference.
Okay, so that should fix it, right?
Well, that's what you'd think. But And here's another aha moment that really highlights the immense sophistication required for robust countermeasures. They observed no reduction in the LDA predictor's accuracy, even with the constant time implementation.
What? How? If the timing is constant.
It's genuinely unsettling and reveals a deeper challenge. The reason is that the LDA model isn't learning from timing differences in this specific context. It's learning from subtle underlying differences in power consumption that occur even when the timing is constant.
Ah, the power signature is still different.
Exactly. The internal circuit activities for performing a write shift and an XOR operation are physically different in terms of instantaneous power draw than performing only a write shift. Different gates fire, different data moves.
Even if they take the same number of clock cycles overall.
Right. So even though the time taken was made constant, the distinct power signatures still provided enough information for the machine learning model, the LDA, to distinguish the LSB.
Wow, that's sobering.
It truly underscores the sophistication required to build robust countermeasures and how deep the analysis needs to go to fully eliminate all forms of leakage. It's not just about time. It's about every physical manifestation of computation. Constant time isn't always enough against power analysis, especially with ML.
That's incredible. Even a timing fix isn't enough when you've got ML looking at power signatures. So if timing fixes don't cut it, what did prove effective against an SNO-SCA? What's a more robust software-based countermeasure that can truly obscure these physical whispers?
The most promising software countermeasure explored in the paper was Boolean masking.
Masking, I've heard that term. How does it work?
Masking is a provably secure technique, specifically designed to protect cryptographic implementations against passive side-channel attacks like CPA. The core idea is to take any sensitive variable, EXA variable, that interacts directly with a secret key or reveals information about it, and split it into multiple shares. For instance, for first-order SCA protection against attacks looking at one point, you split X into two shares, say by 1 and by 2, such that I1 FOR by 2 kills X.
Okay, so the real value X is never stored directly.
Correct. All cryptographic operations are then performed separately on these shares, using specially designed mask computations. This obscures the true value of X from a single power trace observation, as an attacker only observes fragments or values combined with random masks, not the complete secret intermediate value. It effectively randomizes the leakage.
Sounds complicated to implement.
It can be, yes, it adds overhead. But since SNOWV largely uses Boolean operations like XOR and shifts, Boolean masking is particularly efficient for it compared to, say, masking arithmetic operations. They applied a first-order Boolean masking scheme by XORing the sensitive intermediate variables UNV in the ulfsrupdate function with a fresh 16-bit random variable in each execution.
So you mix in randomness every time.
Exactly. This ensures that an attacker cannot determine the true Hamming weight of U or V from a single power trace, as the observable value is now effectively randomized on a trace-by-trace basis. The correlation breaks down.
Okay, and did it work? What were the results?
The impact of this was dramatic and clear. TVLA on the masked SNOWV implementation, as shown in Figure 12, revealed that the absolute T value remained below 10 even with 1,000 traces.
Below 10 compared to 150 before.
Exactly. A massive reduction compared to the unprotected implementation where it reached around 150, showcasing a clear and substantial reduction in leakage.
That's a huge improvement.
Furthermore, the CPA results on the masked SNOWV, shown in Figure 13, were even more stark. The secret key could not be revealed even after collecting 50,000 traces.
50,000 traces and still no key.
Correct. Demonstrating a greater than 1,000x improvement in SEA security against this specific attack. It clearly highlights the efficacy of Boolean masking against SNOW-SCA.
Okay, so masking seems like the way to go.
It's very effective. However, and this is an important trade-off, even with this strong defense applied just to U and V, the TVLA T values still cross the 4.5 threshold eventually, indicating some residual data-dependent leakage might still exist elsewhere or be exploitable by higher-order attacks.
So it's not a perfect silver bullet yet.
Not necessarily, or at least not this targeted application of it. This implies that a full-fledged masking scheme for the entire algorithm, protecting every sensitive operation, might be necessary to achieve complete protection against all possible attack vectors, including perhaps unknown ones. But this would inevitably lead to significant throughput degradation, potentially more than doubling the runtime.
Well, double the runtime. That kills the 6.5x speed advantage, doesn't it?
It certainly eats into it significantly. This presents a critical challenge for high-performance 5G systems, which have very stringent limits on latency and throughput. It's a constant, difficult balancing act between achieving the highest security and maintaining the necessary performance.
That trade-off is certainly a big hurdle for real-world deployment, especially in high-speed networks. Were there any other software-based defenses considered that might offer a different approach, perhaps with less overhead than full masking?
Yes, another approach considered was shuffling.
Shuffling, like shuffling cards.
Kinda, yeah. It's a low-cost countermeasure where the execution order of independent operations within the algorithm is randomized using a permutation function. The idea is to make the processor's execution flow non-deterministic in terms of when certain operations occur. While operations still generate power leakages, the varying randomized timing increases the complexity for an attacker to align and analyze traces effectively, especially in the presence of noise.
Makes it harder to line up the leaky spots.
Exactly. The attack complexity for the attacker increases linearly with the number of independent operations to which the permutation is applied. For SNOWV, the first 5 iterations within the whilst update function are indeed independent and could theoretically be shuffled to some extent.
Okay, so parts of it could be shuffled.
Parts, yes. However, there are limitations. Applying shuffling to the entire whilst update function is challenging because the last 3 iterations contain dependent operations.
Meaning they have to happen in a specific order.
Right. Their order cannot simply be randomized without breaking the algorithm's mathematical correctness. Converting these dependent operations into a set of independent operations efficiently is a research problem in itself, and it's something that requires much more investigation. We also want to note that there's generally less extensive research on SEA countermeasures, specifically tailored for stream ciphers compared to block ciphers, which makes this an active, ongoing area of exploration that needs more focus. Shuffling isn't a complete solution here either.
So it sounds like while these countermeasures show significant promise, securing something as critical as 5G encryption is clearly a complex, ongoing battle in arms race, really, between cryptographers designing these intricate algorithms and attackers finding new, clever ways to exploit them.
That's a perfect way to put it.
What's on the horizon? What does the road ahead look like for truly secure 5G crypto, and maybe even for future generations like 6G and beyond?
This raises that fundamental question that echoes through all of cybersecurity. How do we effectively balance the incredibly stringent performance and resource consumption limits of 5G ciphers with the absolute need for robust SCA protection? As we discussed, masked implementations, while highly effective in principle, can significantly increase runtime, often more than doubling it.
The performance hit.
Right. While hardware platforms could potentially run these masked operations in parallel, that implies more chip area and higher power consumption, which are tightly constrained in compact, energy-efficient 5G devices like phones or IoT sensors. It's a constant design tension.
More silicon, more battery drain.
Exactly. The paper points to exciting future directions in circuit-level countermeasures, though.
Hardware-level fixes.
Yes. These are typically algorithm agnostic, meaning they don't depend on the specific cryptographic algorithm being run, and they often offer very low overheads for comparable SEA security.
Algorithm agnostic, so they protect whatever crypto is running.
That's the idea. Examples include things like switched capacitor current equalizers, integrated voltage regulators, IVR, and signature attenuation techniques like Stellar.
Okay, those sound complicated. What do they do?
Basically, these solutions are designed to provide an almost constant supply current or electromagnetic signature to an external attacker, regardless of the internal cryptographic operations taking place. They try to smooth out the power consumption or EM emissions at a fundamental hardware level.
Like putting a muffler on the side channels?
That's a good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
They effectively cloak the side channels, acting as a generic wrapper around the microcontroller core itself, hiding the inner workings from external probes.
Interesting. So that could be a more efficient path forward.
Potentially, yes, especially for resource-constrained devices. But what's clear from this research and the proposed countermeasures is that developing an efficient and comprehensive countermeasure for the full encryption algorithm of a complex cipher like SNWV is a non-trivial task. It requires substantial, dedicated research and extensive experimentation to get right, especially considering the unique constraints of 5G. While their initial masking experiments are very promising in blocking the SNW SEA attack points, a fully SEA-protected implementation of SNWV that can meet all of 5G's performance and resource demands remains an area of active and crucial future research.
A lot more work to do.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing, dynamic challenge in the world of cybersecurity, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible in secure high-performance computing. Tag outro.
Wow, what a deep dive. We've really unpacked SNOWSEA, which stands as the first power side channel attack ever demonstrated on SNOWV, a vital 5G crypto standard candidate.
A really significant finding.
Absolutely. We learned how these clever researchers combine traditional correlation power analysis with the cutting edge power of machine learning, specifically linear discriminant analysis, to exploit a subtle, almost invisible flaw, the loss of that single bit in an intermediate calculation.
Ghost peak problem and the LDA solution.
Exactly. This allowed them to crack a 256-bit key with surprisingly few traces, fewer than 50 for the CPA part, and just one for the LDA disambiguation. It's a powerful illustration of how attackers are using every tool in their arsenal, even the physical whispers of our devices, to undermine the strongest mathematical algorithms.
It really is. And this deep dive truly highlights several crucial points for you, our listener. First, SNOWV is undeniably incredibly fast and efficient, which is essential for 5G. But even high-performance cryptography needs rigorous side-channel scrutiny before widespread deployment. You can't just assume speed implies SEA resistance.
Yeah, the SAGE report claiming it was more resistant didn't quite hold up in practice here.
Right. And the constant time implementation failure was a huge aha moment, showing us that traditional fixes aren't always enough when ML is in play, looking at power, not just timing.
Definitely.
Second, the innovative blend of classic SEA and ML profiling represents a powerful new threat vector that cryptographers absolutely must contend with moving forward. It lowers the bar for complex attacks.
Attackers are getting smarter tools.
They are. And finally, while countermeasures like Boolean masking show significant promise in mitigating these specific attacks, the ongoing and complex challenge lies in developing comprehensive, high-performance, and low-overhead defenses that protect against all forms of leakage in our increasingly intricate and ultra-connected digital landscape. It's not just about stopping one attack, it's about building resilient systems.
That performance versus security trade-off seems key.
It's always the balancing act.
So what does this all mean for us? As our networks get faster, as AI becomes an everyday tool for both defenders and attackers, and as crypto systems become ever more complex and embedded into every aspect of our lives, how will these unintended side channels evolve? And what new battlegrounds will emerge between cryptographers who design these incredibly intricate algorithms and attackers who are always finding new ways to listen to the silent whispers of our devices? This attack on SNOW isn't just a technical paper, it's a profound warning and maybe a roadmap for the foundational security we need to build for future technologies like 6G.
It absolutely raises the stakes.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes slightly scary world of cybersecurity.